It's Thursday, July 19th. I'm Paul Joseph Watson. This is InfoWars Nightly News. Coming up on the show.
Tonight on the InfoWars Nightly News, 9/11 hijackers trained on U.S. military bases. Plus, bankers declare victory over the U.S. and Europe. They say we're conquered, we're done. Then Obamanoids and Obamanites converge on Austin, Texas to support the dictator-in-chief. All that and more on the InfoWars and Nightly News. And remember, none of the graphics people, news investigators, camera people, or Alex Jones or Paul Watson or anybody else did any of this show tonight. The government did it.
First story tonight, human corpses harvested in multi-million-dollar trade. This is out of the Sydney Morning Herald. A grisly trade in human body parts leaves relatives grieving and some recipients at risk of life-threatening diseases. On February 24th, Ukrainian authorities made an alarming discovery. Bones and other human tissues crammed into coolers in a grimy white minibus. Investigators grew even more intrigued when they found amid the body parts envelopes stuffed with cash and autopsy results written in English. What the security service had disrupted was not the work of a serial killer, but part of an international pipeline of ingredients for medical and dental products that are routinely implanted into people around the world. So basically, you know, another example of the sick world that we live in. Turns out that people are paying huge sums of money for body parts, which basically are used. This is pieces of dead bodies from people who have died. They've took the body parts, often without the relatives even knowing, after the person's deceased. And people are buying them for breast and penis enlargements in different countries around the world. Multi-million-dollar trade. Just another sickening example. Of course, we know a lot of the undercover dark trade in human body parts is completely criminal and illegal. But even this commercial side of it just sickens you. But, you know, hey, when the Obama administration says it's okay for Pepsi to use fetal cells from aborted babies in their soft drinks, declaring it normal business practice, then how far down the rabbit hole do we need to go? You know, how long before we've got a situation like the movie The Island, where humans are cloned for spare body parts? That's the direction we're heading at the moment. And it's basically, you know, welcome to the scientific dictatorship. It's 2012, you know, we've got Bill Gates, who says he wants to reduce global population, funding people to dump tons of sulfur particles, 80,000 meters over New Mexico, and, you know, barely a whimper of dissent. We've got mad psychotic scientists in control. So it's no surprise that this human body parts market is flourishing at the moment with this latest story out of the Sydney Morning Herald. TSA signs off on flight school owned by illegal alien. Kurt Nimmo, Infowars.com. According to the GOA, the TSA approved flight instruction for more than 24 illegal aliens at a flight school in Boston owned by an illegal alien. 8 of the students entered the United States illegally, and 17 had overstayed their allotted time in the country. Remarkably, 6 of the illegal aliens were able to obtain pilot licenses. The illegal activity went undiscovered until the owner of the school was pulled over by local authorities for a traffic violation. It was then discovered he was in the country illegally. He had not undergone a required TSA security threat assessment and had not been approved for flight training by the agency. Despite this, the man held 2 FAA pilot licenses. And of course, we got the flashback story from just after 9/11, which, of course, 9/11 hijackers trained on U.S. military bases. And this, of course, was the story about how several of the hijackers, the named hijackers, the alleged hijackers, trained at U.S. bases. The owners of the flight schools attempted to alert the authorities before 9/11, and, of course, nothing was done. So now the TSA is approving flight training for illegal aliens at flight schools owned by illegal aliens. But don't worry, you know, they're still groping 5-year-old kids in wheelchairs. They're still harassing grandmother over her colostomy bag. They're still demanding to inspect your grandfather's ashes as they throw them on the floor and cackle, laugh while they're doing it. And, you know, they're doing such a great job, the TSA agents, that they're now being exported to London for the Olympic Games for our safety. And, you know, this story again. How many scandals, how many examples of corruption do we need to see with the TSA? There's 2 more today. There's literally a deluge every week. We can't even cover them all. But, you know, it shows you how rotten and corrupt America is when a federal agency that's embroiled in so many scandals constantly is not terminated, does not face censure over its activities. It's actually rewarded. Extra funding for checkpoints, you know, exporting TSA agents to London for the great job they do in groping 5-year-old kids in wheelchairs. And how far is it going to go? I mean, are we going to get to the stage where we've got Abu Ghraib-style torture and sexual humiliation by the TSA before Congress moves to shut it down? Just gets crazier and crazier. Illegal aliens with TSA approval training at flight schools owned by illegal aliens. That's not a problem. Your 5-year-old kid in a wheelchair, he's the problem. Woman pulls gun to prevent smart meter installation. This is a story I wrote, Infowars.com. A Harris County woman pulled a gun on a Centerpoint energy worker to prevent the installation of a smart meter in a confrontation that highlights concerns about the devices being used to spy on Americans' energy use, as well as possible health impacts. And basically, you can go and watch the video in the article. What happened was this little bureaucrat from the utility company thought he could just trespass on someone's property, despite the fact they have signs plastered across it saying no trespassing, no smart meter installation. But he thought he could just walk into their backyard and start installing this spy hub because every other family on the block had just meekly submitted and accepted it. Well, unfortunately for him, 55-year-old Thelma Taormina didn't submit like the rest of them. She actually took a gun out and told the little creep to hightail it, which is exactly what he did. And this happened in an area of Houston, Texas. And this was after, of course, he'd already trespassed on the property, started physically grappling with her and pushing her away as she attempted to prevent him from basically vandalizing her home with this spying hub. And if you consider the stand your ground laws and the fact that he was trespassing, he refused to leave, he assaulted her, he's lucky it wasn't worse for him. And now the utility company's trying to take the woman to court. Massive response to this I saw on Facebook with people big upping this woman for standing up for her rights. But why are people like this lady who pulled the gun out, why are they so up in arms, literally, about smart meters? Well, it's because they're part of the Internet of Things. It's a wireless spy hub. And according to German researchers, they can actually, through these smart meters, decipher precisely what television programs you're watching. So it's not only spying on your energy use, it's deciphering your viewing habits. And there's also the health impacts. According to the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, they've done the studies and found that the radio waves emitted by these smart meters are actually exacerbating problems with people who suffer from neurological, neurodegenerative diseases, and also actually causing genetic defects, cancer, and other conditions. And they're actually urging a moratorium on the installation of these devices because of these health concerns related to electromagnetic frequency, radio frequency. But, you know, that's a sterling example with a woman standing up for her rights, her Fourth Amendment privacy rights, basically sticking a gun in the face of this little bureaucrat who had trespassed on her property, assaulted her, attempted to install this smart meter that they didn't want. And again, as I said, massive praise in the aftermath of that story, which came out today with this 55-year-old Texas woman standing up against the control freaks. But another example of control freaks and bureaucrats turning into tyrants. Natural News reports shock claim LA authorities in Rawsome raw milk raids were impersonating public officials. Documents and testimony obtained by Natural News allege the following. The Rawsome Foods armed raw milk raids and prosecution of James Stewart and Sharon Palmer were carried out in part by law-breaking private citizens pretending to be lawful government authorities. Those individuals who have been operating under false labels such as district attorney or LAPD officer may conceivably be liable for millions of dollars in civil and criminal damages for their actions, which technically may be described as the armed robbery of Rawsome Foods, including theft of cash, willful destruction of private property, criminal kidnapping of James Stewart, violation of the civil rights of James Stewart, and a barrage of other charges, basically. So it turns out that these goons didn't have the necessary oath, the authority to carry out this raid. They didn't have the authorization, and it was a completely illegal operation once again. And, you know, they're terrified. Why do we see these raids happening over and over again, specifically in relation to people who produce or sell raw milk? Because they're terrified that Americans are reclaiming their freedom through healthy organic food, through raw milk. It's the one area where we've learned time and time again, you can completely take back control over your own life in defiance of these control freaks and bureaucrats. And that's why they can't stand it. This is a real massive movement in America to take back control over this vital area of our personal freedom. So now they're actually going and breaking their own laws to raid places like Rawson Foods and go after people who are just trying to produce raw milk and healthy organic food. Zero Hedge reports 3 US aircraft carriers now in the Middle East with 4th en route. And the Stennis, the aircraft carrier Stennis, will be the 3rd carrier accompanying Lincoln and Enterprise. As it turns out, a 3rd carrier was already en route, and as of today, the Eisenhower is either at the opening of the Strait of Hormuz or just past it. So basically, with a 5th one, with the Stennis arriving in 1 to 2 months, we've now got 5 aircraft carriers or 5 attack ships right there in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Persian Gulf, right as this escalation with Iran and Syria builds to a head. So, you know, the election's in 4 months. People have been talking about an October surprise. Israeli sources in the past couple of weeks have been jumping up and down with further at the rumor that Obama's going to give the green light to attack Iran as an election stunt. Now, we were told, obviously, that had been delayed until 2013. Many people expected it to take place at the beginning of this year. Then it was said it was going to be delayed until 2013. Now, it seems, according to Israeli sources, it's back on the agenda again for October. Of course, we hear that habitually, but will it take place this time? The movement of US aircraft carriers certainly indicates that it's a distinct possibility. You've also got the situation in Syria escalating, of course, with the media, the establishment media, desperately trying to fan the flames of hysteria in a bid to help topple the Assad government. Of course, yesterday we had the terror attack which killed several senior members of the Assad government, applauded by the Obama White House. Again, before, you know, Susan Rice, whenever a terror attack happens in Syria, Susan Rice, the US ambassador to the UN, basically uses it as a threat against Assad and says, if you don't step down, there'll be more terror attacks, because, of course, NATO and the US are funding, arming the terrorists that are now overthrowing Syria. And, of course, we got the media on the propaganda side of it, endlessly regurgitating dubious anonymous tweets and YouTube videos which claim mass defections amongst all the hierarchy in the Assad government. Of course, that's Tokyo Rose style propaganda designed to manufacture defections where in fact none exist. So it's all coming to a head. The warships are in position, you know, the election's around the corner, possible October surprise coming up, and the path to Persia is being bulldozed. Kurt Nimmo, Infowars.com, reports Mark of the Beast, FBI wants tattoo database. The FBI has announced it is working to establish a tattoo symbols database as part of an overreaching effort to foster collaboration, improve information sharing, and advance the adoption of optimal biometric and identity management solutions within the FBI and across the law enforcement national security communities. The agency is serious about ongoing work in other modalities, including voice and face recognition, handwriting, palm prints, scars, marks, and tattoos. So basically, you can forget about the mark of the beast. They're not going to need it. They're not going to need a microchip in your forehead. They're building a database of every physical characteristic that you have. It's worse than a microchip because, of course, with a microchip, you can always have it removed. Not in this case. What they're moving towards is what we saw 10 years ago with the DARPA-style gait analysis, the molecular scanners that were announced last week, you know, that can suss out whether it be sweat, physical characteristics, even down to gunpowder. We got a tip that we're going to use it to go after gun confiscations from a law enforcement officer. So now they're going to use these scanners to process the physical characteristics of a deluge of people passing through a checkpoint at one time. And now they're going after the people with tattoos. Just every single characteristic of your body is going to be in that database beyond 1984, beyond Minority Report. And once they get all this stuff in the airports, which of course is only the beta testing phase of it, you know, the face scanning to see if you're nervous, you could be a terrorist, the interrogation booths with physiological responses with Homeland Security, the taser bracelets that they talked about making everyone wear when they got on the plane, just ridiculous. But once it's all honed in the airports, just like the TSA agents have spilled out of the airports, they're now on the highways, they're now at the bus station, the train station, even at prom nights, the technology soon follows behind them. So now we've got the FBI building databases, not only facial recognition, palm print, handwriting, scars, even down to your tattoos, in this centralization of all your physical information. Bankers declare US and Europe conquered, Infowars.com. A recent CNBC clip in which financial analysts admit to viewers that America is under the control of a group of central bankers who are building a world government is a damning insight into how the establishment has dispensed with any pretense of trying to hide their agenda as it's finalized. And many of you will have seen this clip. It aired a few weeks ago now. Basically, it's the host and all the guests on CNBC admitting that we're all slaves to global bankers. They control the economy. Through the printing, the mass printing of money, they can do what they like. They can take it in any direction they want. The actual economic conditions are secondary. We're at the whim of global central bankers. And this article is basically a compilation of quotes. It's, you know, the Herman Van Rompuys of the world, the Jean-Claude Trichet, Kofi Annan, and all the rest of them, about how they're now literally throwing it in our faces, saying, this is what we plan to build. We've almost got it in place. Deal with it, accept it. Nothing you can do about it. But the days of, you know, the conspiracy theory about a world government are over. They're finished. We've moved on from that stage. And the technocrats are now openly announcing that they're using not only the financial crisis, but also the global warming hoax that they created in terms of the financial crisis to put the capstone on the pyramid of this new world order. And, you know, they've said it's not going to be a touchy-feely humanitarian global government, as Gideon Rachman, Bilderberg member, said in his 2008 Financial Times piece. This is anti-democratic. This is going to be dictatorial world government. And, of course, people who oppose it, Americans who oppose it, have now been characterized by their own federal government as terrorists. So this is all about the process of throwing it in our faces, admitting it, getting over that hurdle, and trying to inoculate Americans against resisting it. So bankers declare US and Europe conquered. The technocrats are now firmly in control, and they want you to know about it because they don't want you to resist it. Quote of the day comes from Senator William Jenner. Today, the path of total dictatorship in the United States can be laid by strictly legal means, unseen and unheard by the Congress, the president, or the people. Outwardly, we have a constitutional government. We have been operating within our government and political system, another body representing another form of government, a bureaucratic elite. Senator William Jenner, 1954. So we're talking what, some 65 plus years ago. The fact that a bureaucratic elite were in control was already recognized, and look at where we are today. I mean, the bureaucratic elite are certainly coming out of the woodwork on every front, from smart meters to the financial crisis to the global warming prison cities they're now building. And all indications show that it's leading towards the second American Revolution. PlanetInfowars.com, that's the place you can go for our exciting new social media powerhouse. We've got Ask Alex, of course, which is the regular YouTube video section where you can ask Alex Jones your question. You can host your own blog on there. You can network with like-minded people, set up activist projects, arrange meetings, special events. There's also a dating section where you can form relationships with like-minded people. Powerful new social media tool, tens of thousands of members already. PlanetInfowars.com. It's free to sign up, so sign up today. And also we've got PrisonPlanet.tv, of course. For those of you watching on YouTube, that's our multimedia website in which you'll find Alex Jones Show archives, of course, the live video stream of the Alex Jones Show, the video stream of this show, And literally, you know, it's been going since 2004, almost 10 years of archives, multimedia archives, special events, speeches, every Alex Jones documentary. And it's necessary for us because it funds this entire network. If we didn't have prisonplanet.tv subscribers, you wouldn't be watching this right now. So we need your support. Just $5.95 a month. We've still got the 15-day free trial running, and that's prisonplanet.tv. Coming up now, Alex Jones in a fascinating interview with InfoWars programmer Max Cabrera. And this delves into how what happens when the government declares war on the free market, private businesses, because, of course, Max used to live in Venezuela. And they talk about how his family's businesses were targeted for a takeover by the Chavez regime. So a fascinating insight into how the government, how the state declares war on the free market.